Morning, everybody. Happy Tuesday. We're back to Tech Tuesday. We got some more AI for you. Real quick, housekeeping. What's the one thing that, if by doing so, you get the most out of this class? Participate, all right? I need you guys to participate. This is a highly participative class. This is not a class where we turn our cameras off, sit in the back, and don't pay attention. I'm getting a lot of people requesting the video for this, which is great. However, it makes it a lot more entertaining to go back and watch if we got participation. So please make sure you participate and cameras on. If you've ever taught a class before and had a bunch of names staring at you, it is boring and it is really difficult to teach. It's so much better when I can see your faces and I can tell if you guys are getting it or not. If I can see the light bulbs going off in your eyes and your head, it makes it so much better. When I'm seeing just a bunch of blank names, it's not fun. And just to add some humor to it, that was just a video for fun of a guy teaching a class online, and everybody turned their cameras up and changed their name to reconnecting. It was cute. Anyways, anybody got any ahas from last week that they're willing to share? Ahas from last week.
When you're using ChatGPT, you can make folders.
Nice.
That's pretty cool.
That is cool, and it understands the context within those folders, so those conversations kind of group together. That is a good one. Anybody else? Everybody get your fingers ready to unmute yourself. You can usually use the space bar in Zoom and unmute, and you can go ahead and talk. It's free to go ahead and talk, and there's going to be a lot of sessions today. We're going to be getting some things accomplished, and I'm going to be asking you guys for feedback, so please be prepared to participate.
Hey, Ryan, Mark,
yes.
I was playing around with the ChatGPT doing enhancing photos and virtually staging.
Yes.
I took a couple of bumps, but it actually wasn't bad considering once I got some of the prompts down correctly, it actually did a very good job.
I would suggest one of the things I've run into with ChatGPT is it sometimes likes to throw extra doorways or windows in there that shouldn't be there. I would suggest using Gemini for that. The new Nana Banana is amazing. It's so good.
I meant Gemini. I'm sorry. I was using Gemini, not Chat. I went back and forth a little bit to see what's written, and Gemini did work.
Gemini, when it comes down to pictures, is amazing. I've used that to completely remodel my house. Well, it's not remodeled yet, but I've got ideas on how I want to remodel it. So I would challenge you guys, maybe go to some of the rooms in your house or go to some of your listings and just take some pictures and put that in there. Just remember it as AI. So if you put that into the MLS, you need to make sure you tag it as AI. Get one more aha from last week. We were customizing our AI, making sure we put in our instructions so it would know who we are.
It's interesting to see, Ryan, that there is a limit in space on what we can tell about us. So I keep giving it back to him and asking him to
shorten it. It just depends on which one you're using. Some of them have more space than others. I believe in ChatGPT, you can keep on adding additional sections and it'll keep on remember. And like she was saying before, the folders has context in it. So depending upon what you're talking about, you can keep that within too. And if you're paying for the Gemini version, it'll remember details and you can add almost as much as you want. All right, so let's move on. Prompt engineering. Do you guys know what prompt engineering is? Well, let's have the guy himself tell you.
This is what Sam Altman had to say about whether prompt engineering is a real job.
And then there will be totally classes of jobs just haven't seen before. First example we saw, before AI capable, there's no such thing as a prompt engineering. Not only it would have been hard to conceptualize that there would be such a job.
It's so funny, whenever some of these new jobs come in, they're always ridiculed at first. Even with prompt engineer, a lot of people still don't take it seriously. Well, all you're going to do is write.
I was young. I wanted to go study computer programming. The adults in my life was where you need to go. So they just have to. Thought I understood something. I really encourage people to have their own fiction. So I'm going to be like, just because something is not historically valuable or high status job, just future.
Prompt engineering is a real job that you can actually go and get a degree on right now. And I'm going to teach you basically the basics around prompt engineering today so that you can get the results that you're hoping for. But this is something I took from this lady right here. Her name is Julie Holmes in this book. She was our guest speaker at Mega Camp during the CEO Summit portion. And she did this book called 101 Plus Tips, Tools, and Prompts AI for Realtors. So it's a real estate specific book. It's an easy read. It's not like tiny letters or anything like that. You can see in there. It's even got a lot of coloring on the page to take up half the page, but it's an easy book to read. And it does a really great job of going through this and helping. So this is from her, the 20-60-20. And what that means is 20 is you putting the prompt in, like we had discussed last week of customizing it. It's you putting your portion of it in what it is you're trying to accomplish, which we're going to break that down here soon. Then you're going to let the AI do a bunch of its work. And then you're going to refine that because you're going to put the human touch on it. Okay. So just remember that's 20-60-20. Now I will put a caveat to that. Stefan and Mark, as you get really good at this, and maybe this starts to get really easy for you and you get really good at things, you might be able to make that 10-80-10, because at that point, you've done such a good job with this prompting that you don't have to put in as much. That will come as you go. All right. So 20% is you. You give the strategy, you let AI do the work, and then you review and personalize. What do you want to accomplish today? If there was something that you could use AI to accomplish, what would it be? Think that through a little bit. I'm going to give you 3 types of examples in real estate that you can use. I'm going to have 3 pages and there are going to be a bunch of different things on there, but each one is a different type. So I'm going to give you a second to throw some music on. I want you guys to kind of look at these pages and find one on there that you want to do today. Because we're actually going to do this work. You're not just going to sit here and watch. You're actually going to be doing this along with me. So let's take a look. And again, I'll throw some music on to just keep it going.
Oh, this morning. So, everything's right. It, was a new, hear my name, brown, out, this, out, because we're living in, down. So, I'm lines.
Did everybody get one that they want to do? So we've got marketing and content generation, lead generation, client communication. And then the last one's going to be market research and admin. So just kind of look and see what you want to grab. Yes, Melissa.
So I'm going to add to this long list. It was talked about at Mega Camp about asking AI to actually find a particular house in a town for a buyer. I keep thinking about it for an investor to say, you know, this is the type of house and this is the income that they wanted to produce. How do you build that to get back where you want?
It's a good question. I actually had one of our market center tech trainers this morning was showing us how he actually built AI into his KW website and using his KW website to search for it. So that's something I may have him come and teach you guys in a future version of this class. This is the 100 section. So we're just teaching you how to build up to that. We'll do 200 and I'll probably have Peter come on and show you how to implement that later on. You can actually talk to the AI naturally and put it in there and it'll go into the websites that we have with KW and pull back the properties directly for you. So you don't have to go use all the filters to search.
Interesting. Okay. Thanks.
That'd be even easier than trying to prompt it this way. Now, hopefully you guys all have what you want to use here because we're going to move into the RICE method and talk about the RICE method. Hopefully you remember that from our first session. If you don't, it's okay. We're going to go over it really quickly. So RICE is going to be role, instructions, context, and then examples. So role, you're going to explain who the assistant is. So you would say something along the lines of, you are an expert real estate agent with 20 years in the business. And you're going to communicate with me in a happy-go-lucky way. And your main goal here is to help me find a home. I'm using Melissa's example. And instructions, you're going to tell the model what you want it to do. and not to do. I think the not to do is very important that some people miss. Don't say something long. She's got a great example here. Is you do not want to say, hey, write me an email or respond to this email. You need to give it more context. Write an email to respond to a first-time home buyer who is nervous looking for their first home. There's a big difference, right? If you're talking to an experienced home buyer who's bought 10 homes, they're going to be very different than a brand new home buyer who's very nervous. So that context is important. Tell the model what you want it to do and not to do. So an example of what not to do is not to bring up anything that has to do with fair housing. Okay. So if there's saying it's in the perfect neighborhood or the best school, I would stay away from that if you can't prove it. Give it clear instructions, use clear tone, words, shape, responses like formal, casual, friendly, serious. We went over that last week and we were telling you how we wanted to respond. It's going to naturally do that based upon what you've already told it. But if you wanted to respond in a different way than you've already naturally done it, you have an opportunity here to let it know that. For example, I might be the kind of person who likes to joke around, but in this situation, I want to be more serious and professional. Context. You're going to add any extra info to the model needs, like data it would already know. Put this near the end since it may change with each use. Context, like if you're looking for a specific house, making sure it knows it's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, making sure that it's within a certain school district, or anything like that. I think this is very important. I use this one quite a lot when I'm doing it, is giving an example of how I would like that to come out. Like, for example, if it's in a table, I would like it in table format and giving it some kind of table format. If it's providing emojis, make sure you put that in there. If you like to use emojis and you think that's going to grab people's attention, throw that in there. All right. So what we're going to do now is we're going to write this together. I'm going to give you some common mistakes. Here's some mistakes. Being too vague. If you're being too vague in your prompt and you're not giving it enough details, you're running the risk of letting it think what it wants to think. So if you just say, help me find a home, you didn't tell it what type of home, so it's going to just start finding homes. Think of this as an intern or an assistant. How many of you guys ever have hired an assistant or a VA or anything like that to work for you? How many times have you had to get rid of that person because they weren't doing the job right? And how many times was that your fault? Most of the time when we hire, it's our fault because we aren't giving enough details. Sometimes it's the other person's fault, but if we did our due diligence in hiring, then it's probably our fault because we didn't do enough training. And that's what you want to do here, is you want to give clear instructions on what you want it to do. In later sessions, we're going to show you how to cut this time in half. But for right now, I just want you to understand how to prompt. If you have an assistant, you need to give them clear instructions on what it is. So we're looking for homes, and this is a first-time home buyer. They're very nervous. They're looking for a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. It has to have a pool. And oh, by the way, they want a kidney-shaped pool. It's not just, they don't want a rectangular shaped pool. It's going to be a kiddie pool. And they have to have, I've taken Nikki Valdez List Your Buyers for Success class, and she's talked about this all the time when it comes to the water. What's the waterfront? Is it just oceanfront? Is it a pond? That matters to somebody. Sometimes you think they're looking for waterfront, and that means to you an oceanfront property, and it could just, they want to sit in the backyard and have a pond in the back that they can look at because the water calms them. And that's her example. So giving those details is very important. The more you give it, the more it can help you. Omitting context, not providing necessary background information. Again, if you have a buyer who's very skittish for certain things like privacy and stuff like that, making sure that you give it context. Avoid, you need to make sure you give that to it. Over-engineering, including excessive or irrelevant details. I'm good at that. Sometimes I'm a C personality. Sometimes I'm more S, but I have a C personality. So sometimes I go into details too much, and sometimes those details don't matter. So don't do like I do and go excessive in details. It's important to give it the context it needs, but don't overdo it. And then forgetting your audience. If you don't consider the target audience that you're trying to do, so I always think with the end in mind. Who am I talking to? What am I trying to accomplish? So remember that as you're writing this. Does that account for that? And then inconsistent instructions. If you're providing contradictory requests with the prompt, if you're asking it to do things that it shouldn't necessarily be doing, but you're not trying to get out as a result, going back to the last one I just said, not knowing what your desired action is, then that's going to cause you to go in a loop constantly over and over asking it, because the original instructions were to do this. Hey, you're trying to tell it to do something it's not supposed to be doing. And don't iterate. Failing to refine and improve prompts based upon initial response. So what I mean by that is going back to the 20-60-20, making sure once you get your response that you ask it more questions, because I tell you what, 90% of the time when I'm putting a prompt in, when it comes out, is not exactly what I was looking for. Sometimes it's really good, but it's not exactly what I was looking for. I have to ask it more questions. And you should too. Even if you think it's really great, ask it, is there anything I was missing? Something like that. If I was a professional real estate agent of 20 years, is there something I should have asked you that I didn't ask you? Stuff like that to try to get the prompt better. So these are common mistakes. And again, you guys will get all these slides so you can go back and practice with these, but we're going to practice one right now. So we're going to do an activity. I'm going to give you guys 2 minutes. I'm going to ask you to go ahead and write down what your role is. So think of the role and write that down. And then I'm going to ask you guys to come back and share. So we're going back into the activity where we get to participate. And thank you all for those of you who have your cameras on. I really appreciate that.
Can you go over what it means, write your role, please?
Still listen on the street. The more beep. I used to check the lines. I used to feel the street. The thumb was the game. Supposed to. You've worked. Got nothing. Cause it's all about me. Yeah. Just let me show you. From you like no. What you're waiting for. Selling. Dream. Found him online right on the screen. Listen. Actions. Quiet. You walk to change up. I used to feel the street. Now the nothing to. Cause it's all about me. I just you like finding what you're waiting for.
All right, guys, let's go ahead and share. Who wants to share first?
I can, Ryan, if you want.
What was that, Stefan?
Yeah. You act as a Boca Raton real estate expert to provide a detailed report to a D personality buyer comparing two neighborhoods.
Awesome. Thank you. See, by sharing this, we're all going to learn from each other's prompts and how to get better. So it's good that we all hear each other's. Who else wants to share?
Hey, Ryan,
Yes, sir.
if I turn around and I say I use a different thing to create my prompts?
No, that's perfectly fine. Even in this book, it uses one called Prepared. I'm just using the AI playbook that KWI gave us. It's just simplified a little bit, but if you got a different way of doing it, go for it.
I use Prompt Cowboy. I'll take my lazy and go through Prompt Cowboy. It creates a much more detailed, and then I can go into that and even get it more detailed. It gives me better results.
Absolutely, because you're using something that's going to make it easier for you to not have to think about it all. It just is asking you doing. That's fine. You can do that. In fact, again, later on, we can create our own ChatGPT version of that if we want to, but we'll do that in a later class. Right now, I just want you guys to get the basics of it. Even though you're using that, what I would like you to do is kind of like when you're in grammar school, you got to learn how to do 1 + 1 before you start doing your times tables and stuff like that. Yes, Donna. Did you write your lyrics to your music?
Yeah, I'm working on it. See if this is correct or not. As a professional, full-time, experienced Florida Keys realtor, please craft me an upbeat song, Island Beat, geared towards sellers in the fabulous Florida Keys.
That sounds pretty good as a start for a prompt. But what I want you to work on right here is just getting the roll down. We're going to go into the other parts of it. We're breaking this down. So we're just doing the R portion, which is roll when it comes to rice. So what is your role? And you want to be clear on what that role is. So if that's a real estate agent helping somebody, what type of experience does that agent have? What is it that agent is experienced at? Is there something specific? Are they specifically working with luxury buyers, or are they specifically working with just single family homes, condos? What is their specific role?
So it's not enough to just say like full-time experienced Florida Keys realtor. You want more detail.
Give it more so it knows exactly how it's behaving.
Okay. Thank you.
What Mark was talking about, he's using a different program to do that. It's going to ask questions based on it. It's going to pull in the information from that. And it's got the only bad part about it is if you don't give that thing enough detail, it's going to start just put stuff in place for you. And that might be okay, but the more detailed you can be with what you're actually trying to get, the better. If you had an assistant that knows nothing about real estate, how would you get them to behave? How would you get them to act on your behalf? You want this thing to be acting on your behalf so it can take some of these mundane tasks off your plate.
Would you write maybe several sentences just on roll? I was trying to kind of build a little paragraph, but just step one could be several sentences kind of describing
It could be.
my ideal seller or my experience.
I know some people, when they're creating these things, they'll go like 5 pages deep. We don't need to go that deep here, but
Okay.
we're just doing the basics of it. It depends on how detailed and how good you want this assistant to be for you. I really want you guys to think of the fact, because we're going to build off of this. This is just the first part of it. This class is going to build on a class that we're going to do in the future. You being able to do this will help you when it comes to building GPTs or other agent assistants that are going to be there for you. You understanding how to write this prompt really helps. So knowing your role, exactly who that is. If I was to tell you to go with that prompt that you just did, you'd be like, great, and you put that in, but then you'd have some results that you wouldn't like later on. So you're going to be like, how do I fix that? The way you fix it is refining this role, refining the rest of the rice formula here. If you're following this one, it's prepared. She breaks it down into more. Each letter is a different thing, but you're pretty much doing the same thing. Mine's kind of, the rice model is condensed some of those things into context.
So Ryan, is your role specific to what question you're going to ask, or is your role?
How you're behaving, more of your behavior. How are you behaving? What is your experience? Who's the person that's doing it?
That
Melissa,
might be
you're
different if I'm looking for an investment property versus I'm looking for a lakefront property, or I want to.
very true.
I could see how those would be different. So
Absolutely. And that's good. I'm glad you picked up on that because it is going to be very different. If we were creating a GPT, we would create a GPT, which is, and all of this GPT is a specialized version of it that remembers the stuff and it does those tasks for you. So it's like having an army of people. I have somebody focused on marketing. That's why I gave you different lists. Somebody's focused on marketing, somebody's focused on lead gen, somebody's focused on the transaction side. It's like having different assistants working for you, but you have to give it the role. So right now, depending upon which one you just picked off that list, you're giving it that role based upon that. So what is their function?
Sounds like the role will be more like the objective. For instance, if I'm putting in my resume as a realtor or trying to get a job, my objective is to obtain a position that can utilize my knowledge as a real estate agent or something like that.
Well, let's say you're going for a listing presentation, right? When you go to a listing presentation, you already know quite a bit about that property. So if you were to try to promote yourself to the sellers, you wouldn't go to the sellers and say, I specialize in selling high-end $5 to $20 million homes that I work with athletes and all this stuff. You wouldn't do that if you're going to a $200,000 home and these people are not athletes. You probably present yourself more talking to them like who they are. They're selling a $200,000 home. So I saw all types of properties, including homes ranging from 80,000 to 20 million. So it just depends. You want to think of this here. If you're going to work with an athlete that's selling their $10 million home, you would bring up the fact that you're part of sports and entertainment and that Keller Williams has this network across the country. Make sure when you're talking about this, you're being specific to that role. And I think that we don't think about that enough, but we naturally do that.
Ryan, I asked my AI to help me break down a market summary report for my sellers that have had very little or no showing activity in Land O'Lakes. It gave me great ideas. I have to go in and tweak those a little and add in some specific data. But then I also went and said, okay, can I have a seller facing script on how to discuss this on the phone? But that's what I did.
Good job. Now, if you have specifics, you can refine that, right? So you can keep on adding to it.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, I'm going to have to pull the market data and fill that in. I cannot just copy
You
and
could
paste.
just pull the market data and just give it to the GP, to chat or to Gemini or whatever.
Do you mean like uploading a Chartmasters graph?
You can get the data that Gary gives us each month and throw that in there as well.
Okay. I have found that the Chartmasters graphs are really impactful to sellers, especially when they're like, why isn't my home sold yet? Here's
Throw that in there and it'll give you some scripts based upon those stats on how to work that.
I didn't realize you could upload those graphics to
Oh yeah,
ChatGPT.
we'll get into more of that here.
Crystal,
Give it a whole library.
yeah. So Crystal, when I was looking at investors, I asked it to actually give me properties that met this criteria, that had this rental rate, that had all of these things. It actually gave me a list of properties that are for sale. For real.
Wow.
I don't know if you think about, like, tell me what has sold, tell that matches this listing or whatever. But it gave me a whole list.
That's pretty smart.
Thank you guys for sharing. And I'm going to ask you guys, please try not to work ahead too much. I want you guys to understand what each one of these are so that later on, you understand why you had to learn all this stuff and why you need to know that. And it's okay. I just want to make sure that you guys understand it so that you get benefit the most out of it. All right, so let's move on to the next one, which is write your instructions. So once you know the role and how that person's behaving, now what do you ultimately want them to do? What is this chat that you're working with? What are they going to do for you? Think with the end in mind. What would you like them to accomplish on your behalf? Think about the fact you're talking to an intern, like you went into USF and somebody's studying real estate over there and they're working with you and they're going to help you over the summer. And what are some of the things that you want them to do for you in this situation? So whatever you picked, you've got their role, how they're doing it, but now what do you want them to do? And make sure you're giving as much detail on what they're doing and how they're going to do it. All right, so let's take 3 minutes because it takes a little bit longer to do this part and go ahead and work on that.
The heat doesn't this it be the chasing say the fitness train was to tell why that's why because it's should be just you know selling because victory on this why she's the train the to tell why is because it's selling just just
All right. Who would like to share?
I'm not scared.
I know some of you have already shared. Go ahead.
I just kept refining what I wanted the AI to do for me. So I said, it gave a recommendation, some data. And I said, for explaining the market summary to my seller with little showing activity. And I said, great, but make it more casual. Okay, now make it more specific for this particular address. Okay, now add in your suggestions for a plan moving forward or a strategy. I just kept kind of adding what I expected.
And that's exactly what you're doing is the way I did it when I started using it too. What we're trying to teach by doing this RICE method is how to get those results a little bit faster by explaining that role and being very clear on what your expectations are. You'll have to do less of that. It's okay to still refine it. You're still going to refine it. But if we can get more of that at the beginning, you'll learn from doing that. As you keep doing that, you're like, if I would have asked this or if I would have asked that at the beginning, I would have got that answered. Right now, it's going to be 20, 60, 20. But as you get better at this, you'll get closer to 10, 80, 10. So it's just doing those type of things. So good job. Anybody else want to share?
Question, Ryan.
Go ahead, Stefan.
Are we working right now on the 20, which means we do the whole RICE and then we're going to click. Okay.
RICE is part of the 20. It's the U part that we're doing. And then once we get done writing the RICE part out, we're going to let it do it. And then we're going to go back to what Crystal was just talking about, which is refining it. Leo, did you get anything out of yours? You want to share?
I'm reading through that AI playbook while we're doing this. I'm kind of a slow learner, but I'm getting things out of this. I appreciate everything.
Were you able to write anything down for the instructions?
Yeah, because I want to do a newsletter, but I'm still hearing what you guys are doing to be specific because it's real difficult for me to be specific.
That's fine. So you want to think that's actually a good one to use as an example. So for a newsletter, I do one for our Market Center Tech Traders that I send out. And I have it set so that it automatically creates that for me, which is something you can ask it to do as well. In Gemini and in ChatGPT, it'll auto do the newsletters on a specific day and time for you if you like. You just got to tell it to do that. For example, Market Center Tech Traders, I do it every Tuesday. They get Tech Tuesday newsletter. And it's going to tell them about 2 things that are happening in the real estate world that have to do with tech. It's going to tell them about 2 opportunities for them to work on for trading. And it's also going to talk about technology in general, like what's going on in the world of technology. So it's basically 3-2 method that I'm using there. So there's 3 topics, each with 2 things to talk about. That's my newsletter. So I just gave it that, but that's what my ultimate goal was. I want them to learn about that little thing, and it does the research and pulls all that in for me and it creates it. But you have to tell it who I am. Like, I'm the tech trainer, but it is an expert researcher and technologist doing this. And the instructions are to find 3 topics. Here's 3 topics I want. And I want you to give me 2 different instances of it and provide this for me every Tuesday at 9 a.m. And then there's more that we go on to when we get to that. So those are my general instructions.
No, that's exactly what I needed to hear. Thank you.
Of course. Anybody else? Did anybody accomplish getting their instructions written down and they want to share? How'd you do, Catherine?
Karen, I feel totally upside down in this.
That's why I'm trying to take this really slow for you.
Yeah,
So that's the whole point here. A lot of people are uncomfortable.
I got 5 minutes late, so I think I was even talking about the role. So for this one, what do you want them to do? I said, write an ad to buyers for this property. Put in the property address, 31645. The property is a 1.4 acre property with a 3,000 square foot home, including an in-law suite. Is that what we're talking about, telling it to do?
Yeah, you're giving instructions of what you wanted to do. That's good. You gave it details. So that's good. Now, The only thing I would suggest is tell us more about who that buyer is. Who's the perfect buyer for that house? So you know that property, or you've been able to research a little bit. So who is the perfect buyer for that property? I have an example I'm going to show you here in a few minutes. It's very similar to what you're saying.
Write an ad for this property, describe the property. The perfect buyer would be looking for land, wants no HOA in the country.
There you go. Good. Anybody else want to share here? Write your context. Remember, the context is, what are some things that you don't want it to do? What are some things you do want it to accomplish? If there's anything that you can share with it about what you're trying to accomplish as well, not just the details, but actually some things, more instructions into it. Feel free to put that in there. Again, I'm going to give you 3 minutes. Go ahead and think through your context. We'll come back and then we'll finish up with the examples and just looking at the time here so we don't take up too much. After that, I'm going to give you an actual example of what I put together using this method so you can see that, and then we'll finish up the class. Okay, so hang with me 3 more minutes. My goal is you guys walk away from this class today and you wrote your own rice method and are able to put that in, and then you can go practice that, doing it several more times with some others and get really good at it. All right, so 3 minutes starting now.
Open house, still on the street. But more beep. I used to check the numbers, used to feel the street. The thought was being forced. You've worked, got nothing, cause it's all about me. I can't just let me show you. You like no joy, what you find. Selling victory. Found him one line right on the screen. Actions quiet. You to change. I used to feel the street. Now the lost already. You've worked nothing. I wish you like no funny. You ready for it all? I'm not harder. It's about being smart. Using you. Let the system run. Next has just done. I thought, yeah, that I was selling homes in a flash. It's so sweet.
All right, guys, let's go ahead and share. We just did the context part of it. Hopefully you got some of the things that you don't want it to do, some of the things that you really want to focus on. An example here of if you're writing like a newsletter, maybe you want to tell it how many words you want to constrict it to, stuff like that. So anybody get anything that they feel that they would like to share? Just a couple of them real quick. Donna, did you get anything in your context that you would like to share?
Let's see if I did it right. I put, please make sure you mention my personal recommendations from other sellers. So again, I'm gearing this to sellers. My recommendations found on, I gave it like Google, Zillow, Realtor.com. So I'm hoping it'll go out and pull some in.
That's good.
Okay. But mention my repeat clients and referrals for satisfied customers. Include my professional background, how I can help to keep them informed with communications, market stats, vendors to prep their home, and like some of the tools, electronic signing. So I was trying to carve it around, making it easy for them, even if they're not here to sell their house.
Good job. I like the vendors, adding the vendors in too. That gives us some more context into some additional things that it could talk about if it needs to go that route. Anybody else?
I didn't give it any do not do. I couldn't think of anything at the moment.
Believe me, as you start using it, you'll start thinking of it. You'll refine it at that. You're like, oh, I didn't really want it to do that. So you'll just have to, please don't include that. Especially, like I said before, fair housing information, if it accidentally starts putting stuff out there that you shouldn't be putting out there, protect yourself by asking it. Please don't put that in there. Especially if you're using it to help you with writing a listing description. There's certain words we can't use, so you might want to make sure that you tell it that. Anybody else? Ms. Margaret, do you have anything you'd like to share?
Well, I'm asking it for a vendor list, so didn't include a handyman. I wanted to make sure that it included a handyman that had reasonable prices and would be available on the weekends.
Context. Is there anything that you wouldn't want it to include?
I wouldn't want it to include high-tech vendors or some areas. I would put that in there because some areas may not be able to afford. That's why I wanted to put in the handyman that can do most things at a reasonable price and available all the time.
That's your experience of what you would be teaching to your assistant if you had an assistant. So that's good.
Question.
Yeah.
In reference to doing all this, if you don't like it, you could edit it too, right?
Correct.
Because
Absolutely.
it seems very general sometimes, and maybe other agents are getting similar results. Isn't there a chance that it could be like copying? You know,
Here's one thing that's great about AI. Once you create this prompt and you put it in, every time it gives a response, it's going to be a different response. It'll never give you the exact same response. It could give you similar information, but it'll say it in a completely different way. It's like if you went to a junior college, grab somebody and had them come over and be your assistant. It'd be just like you giving them instructions and them doing it. And then you go grab somebody else and do it and tell them the exact same thing. They're not both going to say it exactly the same way, but they're going to be very similar because you told them the same thing to do. They just are two different people, so they're going to hear it in different ways.
and you could constantly edit with the AI and your own input.
Once
Like,
you get the
you
hang
see-
of how to do this, we're going to show you in the 200 level classes next month how to make this even easier so you don't have to keep on doing it over and over. There's certain things that you'll want to do on a repetitive basis, like a listing description, and we'll create something for you so you don't have to keep on doing that. It'll just make it so you can do it the one time and then just put in the information it needs, and then it'll continue to spit it out. The first thing is just teaching you the basics of how to get prompt put together.
Who's the author of the book so I can get it?
101 AI Tips, Tools, and Prompts for Realtors by Julie Holmes.
Okay.
There's lots of books out there, but this is a pretty good one. It's easy to read. It's easy to go through and just get some ideas from. And
I
it's
think it's just
I'm
a matter of getting used to it. It seems intimidating, but yesterday I saw a video about AI, and AI is not really intelligent. It was just taught algorithms and puts the words and picks them up together, but it doesn't understand. It's not intelligent.
we use
It's
the word
just a social-
AI very freely, and AI, there's different types of AI. Okay. But we're using large language models. So what it's doing is taking information that's already available to it and using it to give you an answer. So it's 1 + 1 = 2. When it starts doing things on your behalf, that's more true AI because it's taking action on your behalf, which we're getting very close to there. We will get into that in later classes. But for right now, we're just focused on you're putting in a request and it's giving you an answer back. It would be the same thing as you searching through a spreadsheet at this point. I want you to think like that because we want to keep it simple. We don't want it to overwhelm us too much. What you put into it is what you're going to get out of it. If you get a bad response, it's because you didn't put a good question in. It's just like going to a listing appointment. If you don't ask the right questions, you're not going to get the right results.
My daughter was doing homework using ChatGPT, and they said that's plagiarizing, so she wasn't allowed to do it.
Interesting.
She's
But
in middle
different-
school.
Like my kids' school, they're actually encouraging them to use it. And there's a learn section in ChatGPT. Like if you're doing math, we'll actually break down the math problem, help you step by step.
Maybe she wasn't breaking it down. It was just copying it straight off. Part of it is understanding it and feeling comfortable with it.
That includes the schools. It's a new tool. It's kind of like before we didn't have cars, we had horse and buggies. Then we get the car and we can go a lot faster. Well, now we got a new tool. It's kind of like a fire starter. I mean, now we could say using fire starter is cheating. We have to sit there and rub a twig together, right? We don't want to do that. We want to get that fire faster. So AI is just going to be helping us do our job faster and more intelligently because we got answers at the fingertips. So let's move on to the next part, which is
Right, really
writing
quick.
your example. An example is really important because it gives it you have in your head what you want something to do, but if you're not going to get the right example. So if you give your intern an example on how to do something, it helps them understand better. Oh, okay. So you're giving them all this information and they're thinking, how am I going to make this work? Well, if you give an example to them how you want it to work, then they're going to follow your steps. An example is almost like a set of instructions. So give an example of how you want something to happen, and it's going to work. Using a listing description, you might give it like, example would be a 3-bedroom, 2-bath with a pool, waterfront. It's perfect for a growing family. Something like that would be an example of how you want it to be laid out. And then let it actually do the work, and it'll make it much better. So we're going to take 2 minutes, and I want you to go ahead and create an example based upon which topic you picked. And then we're going to, at the end, I'm going to ask you to go ahead and take all that and put it into whatever large language model you've chosen, whether it be ChatGPT or Gemini or whatever, and get your responses, and we'll do some sharing on that. So take 2 minutes real quick, and let's go do that.
Ryan, really quick.
Yeah.
The 3 slides that you had that had some ideas of prompts, were those pulled from the book you've shown us?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, they were. And some of them were. Most of them were, but some of them I used actual Gemini to pull some of those as well. All right.
Ryan, what is the name of the book? I'm sorry. This is Myra.
I put it in the chat, but I'll put it down there again. So as we're doing this, I'll copy and paste it in there for you.
Thank you.
My pleasure. All right, guys. It's been 2 minutes. So instead of just sharing real quick, I'm going to ask you guys to go ahead and take what you just got from your example, if you've got an example, and take the other pieces of the rice that we just completed. Go ahead and take all of that, and I want you to place that into your large language model that you're choosing to use. Paste it into there, and then go ahead and ask it your question. So give it that context, and it should be able to do exactly what you want it to do from there. And if what we're going to do next is so that's going to be the do part. So everything you were just doing is the you part. Once you hit enter, you're letting the AI or the LLM do the do part. And then we're going to come back one more time real quick. You'll refine it. Once we get the answer, we'll get a couple people to share based upon that. We should be able to find a few things that we can refine or ask it some questions. While you guys go ahead and do that, I'm going to go ahead and share mine. So here's a personalized listing description one I did. You're an expert real estate copywriter with experience in residential property marketing. Instructions are create a personalized listing description for a 3-bed, 2-bath home with a large backyard and updated kitchen. I need an engaging description that highlights the home and includes emotion and appeal. The context is the description should generate interest and encourage families to schedule showing as they are our target audience. Keep this under 250 words and avoid real estate jargon, exaggerated claims, and keep in mind fair housing rules and regulations. Your future starts here in this beautifully updated 3-bedroom, 2-bath home, perfect for creating lasting memories. Located on a quiet street, this home offers the ideal blend of comfort, style, and practicality. Step inside and feel warmth of home designed for modern living. The heart of the house is stunning, updated kitchen, featured sleek countertops, modern appliances, and ample storage. A perfect space to whip up family meals or host gatherings with friends. The open concept living and dining area flows seamlessly, providing bright and airy space for relaxation. It did a much, much better job than I ever would. And it did exactly what I want. I've read the book Atomic Habits, and Atomic Habits is very focused on making sure you, kind of like in Bold teaches you, that logic makes you think, emotion makes you act, right? So it's very big deal to get into here and make sure you're pulling some of the emotion out of it. And these things make you think of emotion. When you start thinking of your kids running around the backyard, or you making dinner for all those things, elicit emotion out of it. So that's helpful. Not only that, but I took this script that it just gave me and asked it to create a photo based upon that. And these are the photos Gemini created based upon that writing. So if you already got some of the photos, you could throw those photos in there. I'll also give you a pro tip. I did this yesterday. Is I took my phone and I went around with ChatGPT and used the live video function. And so you go into live talking, like you're talking to ChatGPT. There's a video option right there. If you hit that, I walked around the office and said to it, hey, I want you to watch as I walk this office and notice everything that's going on in the office. And I want you to give me a description on this commercial property. And based upon that, it was able to help me with that. So it's just another option on how to do it. That's what we call multimodal at that point. The difference between what we're doing right now is just AI and a large language model. We're putting input in of text and it's giving us text back. But once we start asking for pictures and we're using video, that's called multimodal. All right, so that was my example, and we've got 7 hacks. It takes us back to the last part, which is the you do you. The other 20% is you're going to ask it clarifying questions. So what you just put into your large language model and what you got back out, I suggest you ask it some clarifying questions. So ask me some questions about this. If you use the bot I gave you, it did exactly that. I programmed it to do that for you. If not, you say, ask me some more questions about this property. Get the AI to ask you questions about the property. Just ask it to do that. That's a hack. Show your work and cite your sources. If there's something you're asking it, you might want to ask it to see what the sources are that it's pulling that from to make sure that its information is correct. I do that quite often. Like I did in my newsletters. They're great newsletters, but I want to make sure some of the stuff it's saying is actually accurate. So I'll ask it that and it'll come up and show me the MN News article that it pulled that information from. I think this is a really great one. If there's something that's really great, but you want it broken down even more because maybe it's not up. Now that wouldn't be a good one if you told it to restrict it to like 200 words. But if you got a really quick answer, ask it to break it down more. It'll break it down and give you detailed instructions on it. And see, give me 3 different solutions. That's always a good one when you're working with things because I always work in the rule of 3. If I can get 3 different answers to something or 3 different versions of it, then I can pick the one I like the most. The second, opinion hack. Critique your own answers. It's like playing devil's advocate. This gave you an answer, maybe to your email or whatever. Ask it to critique it. So, what am I missing? This is the one I probably use the most, especially if I'm working with a client and they're coming at me a certain way. I sometimes have to stop myself and say, okay, they're upset about something. So what am I missing? Why are they so upset? Why do I not understand what's going on? Let it try to give you the other opinion or give you different reasons so you can think of it. And then steel man hack. Argue the opposite view, similar to what I was just saying. So if you're sitting here trying to argue for a reason why they should, if you're using a practice role play, let's say, and you're asking them to be an expired listing and why they should list with you, you're trying to argue why they should list with you. You're going to ask them, why shouldn't they list with you? And then get those answers. I just go back to, what's it called? That movie with 8 Mile, the movie with Eminem in it, where he starts spitting all the reasons why he's going to lose this rap battle. Well, here you go. Argue the opposite view. Why somebody shouldn't list with you. If you know all the reasons why they shouldn't list with you, then you can oppose that and get some answers. How do I counteract that? So those are 7 prompt hacks that you could use to help you. Does anybody want to share what they got from their AI? Is anybody blown away by the response they got? Stefan, you want to go ahead and share?
Yeah, I asked you to compare, 2 luxury neighborhood in Boca. And I went all the way to ask, what would be the one that would be the best to flip, to buy, tear down or land and build new homes. It's unbelievable what I got, And since I asked it, you remember, for a D, so he asked me if he wanted to him to create a PDF to make it like a bullet point with, it's giving me the price per square feet to build new homes, luxury homes. It's unbelievable.
Just make sure you verify, break it down a little bit more, or even show your sources just to make sure, okay? Because it's giving you great information, but what if that information was not 100% accurate? So asking it for sources would be really helpful.
It's interesting because it gave the answer by bullet point with the sources. I can click on the link and go see the articles.
Some of them do, like Gemini is really good about doing that, but some of the other ones don't do it as much. So you have to ask for it. Just depends on which one you're using.
That's ChatGPT.
Anybody else want to share? See Robin here, Carrie, Karen, any of you guys want to share?
Noticing that they're very similar to ChatGPT. They both start with like, welcome to your dream home, this beautiful remodel, 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom. So they're very similar in wording. So I guess it's a preference if you want to use either ChatGPT or Gemini.
Yeah. I would say that it just depends on what you're doing. When it comes to running simple things like this, they're both pretty good. I've found that Gemini tends to be a little more human sounding. Gemini seems to be better with spreadsheets, but ChatGPT does some other things pretty well compared to, like, if I'm trying to figure things out or do some research, I tend to find the research to be a little bit better sometimes with ChatGPT. And if you want to get some really good looking documents put together, Perplexity does a better job of putting in their graphs and stuff like that. They look a lot better. ChatGPT's graphs are kind of plain. Perplexity does a better job when it comes to graphs and stuff like that.
So how's that spelled?
It's actually in the slideshows from the first day that I sent you. It'll have it in there, all the list of them. And I'm going to send them out again today.
Okay, thanks.
One more person. Anybody else want to share? Sharing is caring, because what you got is very helpful because it helps spark somebody else as an idea.
Hey, Ryan, it's Mark again.
Thank you, Mark.
So yeah, I went with the newsletter, wanted to see what it created. And it came out with some good topics for them to do headlines, and then gave some good information to share, short, brief, and then created good images to share with that. So something you can incorporate into command and use through the campaign model.
Awesome. Yeah. That's going to be great. And then Canva is going to be working on making it so we can have those newsletters move into command here in the near future. That's good. I have a Canva class coming up in a little bit. So if any of you want to join, I'll be teaching that later today. I can't remember the exact time. What time was that at? I think it's at 1, but let me double check. Yeah, at 12:30. So here very soon. So if anybody wanted to, you more welcome to jump on my Canva class at 12:30. We're going to teach you how to, if you haven't moved over to the KW Canva yet, which they're giving to you for free, I'm going to be teaching you guys how to do that today. So we're going to be teaching you how to log in, how to set up the KWLS into Canva and move your old files from your old Canva account. So it's going to be at 12:30 to 1:30 today. And you can find that on the regional leadership regional learning calendar. Next week, we're going to be talking about real estate use cases. We're going to be helping you implement some of these real estate use cases and actually showing you some of the ones I've put together already for you, so you can just go ahead and use them. Make sure you show up next week. I hope you learned something from today when it comes to prompting. My biggest challenge is if you don't exercise this muscle you got from today of the whole RICE method, or if you get this book, it doesn't prepare. I'm just trying to keep it simple along with the AI playbook. Just keep on practicing. You'll get better at it. It's just like going to the gym. You go to the gym, you've never picked up a dumbbell. It's going to be a little bit awkward at first, but after you lift it about 20 times or so, it's not going to be as awkward. You're going to get the hang of it and you'll get better at it. So you got to just keep doing the same thing with this. Keep prompting the way we're showing you and you'll get better and better at it. That's great. And as you're learning how you're reprompting it, you'll get better at just prompting it the first time. That way you get closer to the actual results you want the first time. That's our goal today, is to help you get better at it so you get the results you want and move on quicker.
Practice makes perfect.
You got to practice this. And eventually, once you know how to do this really well, and once we've moved on to some other classes, I'm going to show you the shortcuts that make it so you don't have to keep doing it over and over for the same thing. So we'll do that in the 200 level classes. Next week is going to be real estate use cases. And the last week is going to be compliance, best practices, and workflow integrations. We're going to create some workflows with this. So make sure you come for the next 2 weeks. Can't wait to see you. Have a good one. See you hopefully in Canva in a little bit. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.